just want to talk a little bit about the interviews, because obviously that does make up the majority of the part of the film. I mean, was that a hard thing to set up? Were families and friends prepared to talk for you, or was that something that needed a lot of negotiating on your part?
I really didn't twist anybody's arm to do an interview. If I heard from them that they didn't want to do it, I said, okay, I won't pursue it. Some families wanted to think about it for longer than others. Other families knew right away that they wanted to participate, and I think almost everyone participated with this idea that hopefully they would be able to spare another family or another friend the sorrow and sadness that they were going through. You know, suicide is a difficult thing to talk about, and I think, you know, when someone comes up to you and says, here I am, a stranger, I'm going to come into your house, and I just want you to talk and to open up and share what you're going through, for a lot of these families it was a very cathartic experience, and it was in a way healing. And I think they said things with me in the room that maybe they hadn't been able to say directly to each other. It's just one of the strange phenomenons of, you know, setting up a camera in a room with people that, you know, I think it allows you in a way, you know, you're sort of tense from having to be filmed, but maybe it relaxes some part of your brain and lets you open up and share things that have been hard to talk about.
And were the families and friends, were they aware of your project and what it would, you know, what it entailed? I mean, were they aware, for example, that in the cases where you did have the footage of their family members, you know, falling or jumping, that was there?
I made a very conscious decision before we started that we had to make sure that word did not get out in the community of the kind of footage we had, for one reason, which was, in the article in the New Yorker, part of the story describes how when the bridge approached its 1,000th death, the radio shows talked about it and the newspapers kept like a box score, and suddenly there was a spike of suicides, people jumping off with like I'm 1,000 signs. And what I was really afraid of more than anything else was that someone who was mentally ill or wasn't thinking clearly or who was seeking attention in the wrong way would see this opportunity to be immortalized on film, and that was something I just really wasn't prepared to handle. And so I didn't tell the park services, I didn't tell the families, I didn't tell anybody except for my crew. I mean, obviously the crew knew what was going on, but you know, and I know why that's difficult for some people to accept. At the same time, I knew who I was, and I knew that I was a sensitive person, and I really valued the confidences that these people had shared with me and the stories that they had allowed, you know, us to film. And I knew that I wasn't going to exploit this footage, and I think we used the footage as sensitively as we possibly could. And in the end, all the families who participated have thanked me for doing this. So, I mean, I can understand why it's difficult. At the same time, I think, you know, in retrospect, they recognize that there was a more significant risk than their feelings.
So for all the people who've contributed or whatever, they haven't sort of now come to the film and seen it and gone, oh my God, I can't believe there's my, you know, son or brother, you know, jumping, and why is that being shown?
No, everyone, all the families and the friends who've seen it have really approved of the film and felt like they've done something significant and important. I know it's not easy for them to watch. It's probably more difficult for them to watch than anybody else, but many of them have come back time and time again. You have to understand, too, that suicide, it's a little bit different than another kind of death because, you know, most deaths end in a sequence that we're very clear on. If someone is sick with cancer, you know, the illness takes over to such a point, and then someone dies. And with suicide, there's clearly the paths diverge of what you know and what you don't know. And there are these sort of dark windows and moments that you just can't account for. And in some ways, I think the film maybe resolved some of that mystery for these families. You know, it isn't easy for anyone to watch, but I think it's important, you know, and I think the families felt like, in a way, it gave them some sort of closure.
I mean, just finally then, what would you ideally like to come out of this film? What would you want people who watch it, and then, you know, if it gets shown at places like the London Film Festival or anywhere else, what do you want, you know, people to sort of, the reaction to be ultimately?
Well, I think bearing witness to disturbing events is a tremendous catalyst. And, you know, I think when people watch this film, they walk out and the movie stays with you. It haunts you in a way, and it makes you think. And Usually it makes people think and have conversations. And really, I believe the only way to change our views on mental illness and suicide is if there's a really open and robust discussion about what we do to treat it, how do we recognize it, how do we keep people here on this earth, how do we, address the sort of bigger picture rather than focus in on the sort of smaller issues that are addressed in it.